Well, good evening, Cedar Falls, and welcome to our regular council meeting for Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. I'll now call this meeting to order with a roll call from Madam Clerk.
Schultz.
Here.
DeBoer. Here. Cruz.
Here.
Harding.
Here.
Ganfield.
Here.
Sires.
Here.
Dunn. Here. All members present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and if everyone could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 3rd?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion from the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does pass. And Madam Clerk, do we have any agenda revisions tonight?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just on the agenda, listed a 7 p.m. start time, which is our normal start time, because we had our capital improvements plan discussion tonight. That did go a little long, but now we're back up and we'll proceed as normal. So I have no special presentations tonight, so I'll take us now to public forum, which is where speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. And I'll just note too, if there's something that will be on the agenda, I would advise waiting until that time, so that way it's included as part of that discussion, but you're more than welcome to speak here also if you desire. But does anyone from the public wish to speak tonight in public forum? Okay, seeing none, then I will ask for staff updates. So, Mr. Gaines, do we have any updates from staff tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if you would oblige me here for just a second. I'd like to ask Captain Zolendijk to come up and tell us about an opportunity they have in public safety with doing some CPR training.
Okay, thank you. Captain Zolendijk, the floor is yours, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council. So I'm just here to talk about a new CPR AED program that we just started. The first class is going to be February 5th, but it's just, I think everybody understands the importance of CPR AED training. I've gotten a lot of calls recently with the Damar Hamlin incident, the football player, so I've received a lot of calls about churches, schools, other organizations wanting CPR training. So we've tried to oblige these organizations kind of as they would call in and we'd try and make it fit in. So now we just have one that's set up, formalized. It's going to be the first Sunday of every month. It'll be out at the Public Safety Building. Start at 9 a.m. It's going to be $40 a person, which it helps pay for mannequins, our AED trainer, that type of stuff, some staffing. It's certified through the American Heart Association, which is one of the leaders in science-based CPR guidelines. And then it's a 2-year certification. It's a 4-hour class. Depending on class size, it might go a little longer, a little shorter. And obviously, just trying to get the word out about CPR. Early CPR can double, triple the chance of someone's survival rate. Julie, Angie, Amanda with city staff has done an amazing job with. So we got these flyers we're putting up in city buildings. We're going to try and get the word out. They've made little cards. As you can see, they have a QR code. Julie and IT got it up on the website. So under services, public safety down at the bottom, it says CPR AED. So you click on that, you can sign up. It goes to all the instructors. It's just a little more formal than me trying to take calls and schedule instructors. It's just a little quicker, easier. So just a quick rundown. Public safety has 9 instructors. There's 2 on each fire shift, 2 on police patrol, and then myself. So most of these will be happening with the city staff that's on duty, either at fire or at patrol or myself. But like I said, we get numerous requests from churches and stuff like that. And obviously 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning probably doesn't work for many church groups, so we'll still make other things work if there's bigger groups. But yeah, that's really all I got. If there's any questions, I can try and answer them for you guys.
Thank you, Captain Zolendijk. Is pre-registration required? Can someone show up?
No, they can show up. Obviously, it'd be nice so we can plan for how many people are going to be there, and mannequins, instructors if we need more than one. But no, they can show up. They kind of do it now. people have been really lucky. They show up on a shift that me or one of the other instructors is working, and it's a Sunday, and I need CPR training by next week. I'm like, well, it's your lucky day. I can teach you right now if you're ready. So we've done that before, so that's just a little more formal, so it's organized if we can.
Okay, thank you. And information on the city website.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I have these little flyers and stuff if anybody wants any or any more information.
Excellent, thank you.
All right.
Any questions from council?
Is there age required? Like, because I don't know if you learn CPR and PE anymore, but
So the American Heart Association doesn't really have a like an age limit. It's just if they could do the compressions at the depth needed. So obviously some 8-year-olds are bigger and stronger than others.
right.
We've had some elderly people in class that couldn't do the compressions at the given rate.
Mhm.
So then we come past them in the practical portion of it. So it's just kind of all depending on your physical ability.
Awesome.
Thank you, great question.
All right, thanks.
So any other staff updates tonight, Mr. Gaines? Okay, so looking over to special order of business, item number 2 is a public hearing on the proposed FY 2023 to FY 2028 capital improvements program. Is there a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. And do we have any written communications filed, Madam Clerk?
We'll need to take a vote on that
Oh,
publication.
thank you very much. So it's been motion and seconded to receive and file proof of publication. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So with that, for staff comments, Director Rodenbeck will be speaking from the session that we had earlier tonight.
Sure, I thought I'd just do a real quick recap of what was discussed in committee. Just so the CIP was in the council packet, but the committee adjustments that were made was number 35, move the parking study to FY '24. Number 36, move the funding for the ramp to unfunded. Number 53, the UNI donation would be reduced to $2.5 million. Number 70 would be keeping the $8 million the same as the school, but a little difference in where the funding sources are from. Number 57, remove GO funding for that project. Number 59 was reduced by $500,000. Number 64, the name changed, and number 204 was moved back as presented. Just a couple things I wanted to clarify is I know there was a question. Lisa Roding helped me out. We went back to the resolution that was passed the first meeting in September, and that was in $300,000. So we had that number right when we were doing some discussing earlier, so we were in the ballpark there. And then I also just verified about I know there was just a little bit of discussion about the College Hill TIF funding in number 59. And so I think in discussing here also with planning staff, it's probably just better to remove that funding because we're not sure that we can really guarantee that there's going to be the College Hill part to that project. So I just wanted to clarify that piece.
Okay, thank you. And going back for Part B, I need to have the written communications. Are there any filed, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we received one written communication later this afternoon, which was placed before council.
Okay, thank you. So with that, if there are public comments tonight about the capital improvements program, so certainly a time to come forward. President Nook, the floor is yours, sir. You have up to 5 minutes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I won't take that long. First of all, thank you to the council for considering UNI's request for $5 million in support of the Unidome. It's really tremendous for us to have an opportunity to come to you and make that request. We really appreciate the opportunity not only to make the request, but to answer your questions and talk to you about what we're doing at UNI and especially this UNI, the Unidome project. Thank you for placing $2.5 million in the capital improvement program. It is a way to say this is a great investment in our community. It's a way to say this is an important project to the economic development of our community as well. We know it's still early and we do look forward to those amounts showing up in the final budget as it's presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Other comments tonight from the public? Yes, ma'am. Just name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Sarah Miller, 1626 Mandalay Drive. Council members, I'm a fourth-generation Cedar Falls resident, and I'm a proud graduate of UNI. I want to thank you so much for your consideration of the swimming pool and including that in the CIP. I have been involved in swimming really my whole life. I've been a lifeguard, I've been a swimmer, I've been a parent. Now I'm here on behalf of the early bird lap swimmers. We get up at 5:30 and swim on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays year-round, both at Holmes and Pete. Our favorite time of the year is at the falls because it's the newest and nicest pool. With that being said, I don't have anything new to tell you because you've heard it all before. You know the state of disrepair that these pools are in. This is a wonderful investment for the citizens of Cedar Falls, and I want to say also that you have been good stewards of our taxpayers' money, and I think you have made careful and considered decisions when it comes to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Does anyone else wish to speak on public comment? Thank you, ma'am. Just name and address for the record, please.
Melissa Woltz, 3222 Pendleton Drive, Cedar Falls. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you very much for allowing us to be here and to be part of this important conversation about the new pool. To introduce myself, because many of you don't know who I am, I've been the Blackhawk area swim team. I've been a coach and a parent for 7 years, and most recently, almost 4 years as the head coach and program director. I currently have 2 children in the program with 2 more at home. One of them should be starting fairly soon. I apologize that I have not had the opportunity to be in front of you regarding this new pool project until today, but our aquatic community is an important component in achieving the goal of a new community pool. A little bit about me personally. Aquatics have played a significant role in my life. I began as a synchronized swimmer at age 3 in Wisconsin, competed for 16 years, coached by my own mother, and then I picked up swimming at age 10 and did both aquatic sports all the way through high school. I received a full ride scholarship to the University of Iowa, where I was a 2-time Big Ten champion in individual events, the 1650 and the 200 butterfly. I was a 2-time NCAA All-American and a 2000 Olympic trial participant. All influenced by my mom, who has been a coach since 1978 and is most recently the former United States synchronized swimming president. I understand the importance of how great aquatic facilities support and influence young swimmers' dreams and positively impact the community through lessons, open swim, early bird lap swim, aquatic fitness, even physical therapy, scuba, and various swim teams. This new pool will not only impact the current Cedar Valley community, but will also play an important role for years to come. There are currently 150 swimmers in the Blackhawk area swim team program, ranging from ages 6 to 18. Over 40 of our senior level swimmers also compete for the Cedar Falls High School team. The younger age groups are the next generations to follow. But swimming is not only important to the Blast and Cedar Falls High School swim teams, it's also an important component within a community as it increases its value. The lack of a quality aquatic facility could have an unfavorable impact on real estate as well. Also, drowning is one of the leading causes of death in children and young people ages 1 to 24. And post-COVID, statistics have increased because the extended period they've been away from supervised pools and lesson programming. If the new pool would be delayed any further, and with the current pool's mechanical issues, as you well know, community members would be left without vital swim lessons and supervised swimming opportunities. I've brought a couple friends with me too, if you hadn't noticed. I'd like some of them to come up and just kind of line up on the sides, if that's okay.
And you have 1 minute remaining, but
Okay.
I'll grant an additional 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you very much. Here's some pictures that I've taken just on my personal phone while on deck coaching practices at Pete and Holmes over the past 3 years, along with some images of some of our swimmers. As head coach, it is not only my duty to teach and train these young athletes in the pool, but also to look out for their health, their safety, and their well-being year-round as we train all year round. When I can't see the bottom of the pool, practice has to be canceled. When the air becomes too thick for the swimmers to breathe, I have to modify their training or get them out of the pool. Parents have contacted me regarding persistent coughing, asthma attacks in the middle of the night, and fumes. The fumes and thick air are due to the poor air handling system, which could be a costly repair down the road. Would you jump into any of these pools right now? Or would you allow your children to jump in? We manage the old pool issues on a daily basis, but these pools won't last much longer. This pool would be a benefit not only to our existing community members, but also for the growth of the community. The Black Hawk Area Swim Team has pledged $100,000 for the new pool, a sizable amount for a nonprofit swim club. Blast has also fundraised over $120,000 from supportive family membership in addition to our club pledge. Blast, myself, and my family are here to make this new facility a reality, and we will continue to provide the highest quality of competitive swimming. Sorry, my mouth is sort of dry. Competitive swimming to the families of Cedar Falls and surrounding areas. We will always be a supporting partner of the Cedar Falls community and the Cedar Falls School District. So thank you for your time and your continued support.
Thank you, ma'am. Very much appreciate your coming tonight. Does anyone else wish to speak in the public forum tonight for this item? Okay, seeing none, then I'll consider the public hearing closed for this and take us over to Part 2E, which is the resolution approving and adopting the FY23 to 2028 Capital Improvements Program as approved by Council or the Committee, Finance and Business Operation Committee tonight, earlier this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Open for council discussion. Any questions? Yes, Councilor DeBoer?
I have a question for Jen. If there were other minor items that we found in here where we could tweak the GO by maybe using GFS funds, would you need to do that now, or could that be done during the budgeting process?
We can sure do that during the budgeting process, especially if they're ones that are in column 24, FY24. Yeah. Or if you would like to do them tonight, that's fine
I
too.
mean, does it make a difference?
I mean, maybe just, I suppose the only nice part about doing it tonight is everybody would know, and then part of the budget, we would already have that versus trying to explain it again during the budget. But
Okay.
I think we could do either.
Okay. Well, could I make an amendment to one item on the CIP? On item number 71, it's a fantastic project in which I'm very proud of the private donation on it. We have GO funding of 110. Can we change that to 100 to GFS? Because as Simon talked earlier, we had that extra 100 in GFS. So switch the funding source from 110 from GO to 10 to GO and 100 to GFS. It's a minor change, but it will affect the tax rate.
Okay. Any,
The 100,000, yeah.
I guess there's a motion. Is there a second for that
Second.
amendment?
Second.
A motion and seconded. Open for discussion. Any from the public on that change from GO to GFS? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll vote on just the amendment itself. Everyone understand what's happening there? So all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that passes. And brings us back to the original motion amended for the approval of the CIP. Is there any additional discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Cyrus.
I want to remind everybody that this CIP is much more than just the pool. The pools are very important. As you all know, my daughter was a diver, went to state. Bethany Olson, state champion diver. She spent many, many hours at my house. Now, the CIP is actually a 5-year, $450 million plan, and we need to look at the total spending, not just one project, because there's many projects that I'm in favor of very much. But we've already overspent $9 million on Main Street, and that's not cost overrun yet. That's just the bid came in at $9 million, and I was very much against that because that, in our budget, would make a tremendous difference in all these different projects. Priorities are important. We need a road to Aldrich School. That got pushed back because of Main Street. So what we need to do is look at priorities. There are many things and many good things. And as I said, my daughter was a diver. Cliff Paulson, great friend of my oldest daughter. We need to look because council, people are spending taxpayer money, and we need to do it as most effectively as we possibly can to avoid raising taxes. As I said, this is a vote for the $450 million 5-year plan. So don't think that I'm picking out, such as the pool, and saying no to that. That's all. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments before I go into, or actually, we've already had the public discussion, so.
Mayor Green, would I be able to ask a
Oh, yes,
make
please,
a public comment or a comment of any kind. I just wanted to say I talked with Coach Melissa and a few members of her team, and I really support that effort. And I think she talked really well about the problems the pools were facing. And then, of course, I want to thank President Nook for always being a great advocate for UNI and the Dome being such a project. And I want to thank the council as well. The UNI student community truly appreciates that. And I'm sure the Cedar Valley does as well. We just had Pack the Dome, for example, a few days ago. So that facility is definitely being used at a high level. So I want to thank all of you, and thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Ackbar. Other
Mr.
comments
Mayor?
from the group? Yes,
Just
Councilor
for
Gill.
clarity, I just want to make sure we're voting on approving the amended that was submitted from the Finance and Business
That's
Operations
correct.
Committee. Okay.
So the item as amended.
So it is a change from the packet. That's all I was verifying.
Correct. Perfect. Other questions or comments? We did have lengthy discussion on it earlier tonight. Yes, Councilmember.
One other
Burke.
question, which I actually know the answer, but I want to double check. If the CIP gets approved and the budget still shows too high of a tax, that's when we can go back in the budget and relook at these projects again. Is that correct?
Yep, that's exactly correct.
Right, this just allows staff to have information to put in to start with to get those preliminary numbers. Okay. Any other from council?
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Aldrich School, can we clarify that? I want to make sure we have the right information out. Did that get pushed back, or I see it, am I wrong in thinking there's, in fiscal year 23, 575,000, plus 250,000, and then fiscal year 24, there's 300,000. Am I wrong that
Yes.
we're still working on that?
It's been in the CIP in those years, and it doesn't have the same funding sources as Main Street. It's actually GO funding, if I remember correctly.
Didn't that get pushed way back because of Main Street, Second Street?
No. Aldrich Elementary,
When is that street going to go in?
well, the council hasn't even considered the agreement yet. And the agreement, my understanding, is coming forward in the next month or so. Is that correct, Mr. Rogers?
That's when we expect it to come forward.
And so by the CIP, that anticipated construction is looking at FY24, correct?
That's correct.
Well, why did I see 29 in there then? I thought it went as unfunded, that Second Street.
That's the Union Road project is moved to FY29. So it's
Well,
a
then-
different project entirely.
We can look forward to some good streets at Aldrich School then.
Any other initial questions from council? Okay, we did have discussion in public forum earlier tonight. So moving into any final comments. Okay, I do want to thank, go right ahead.
Are we voting on the amendment still?
This is the, yes,
Okay,
this is,
just making sure.
yep, the CIP
Okay.
as amended. We haven't changed it, I promise.
For
So-
further clarification, are you talking about Councilmember DeBru's amendment?
We already voted on
We
it.
voted on
That was
that.
Yeah, so
Just make
her
sure.
amendment is in as well.
And then we're voting on the CIP
The whole
as
CIP is
amended.
amended twice.
Okay, that's what okay,
Okay.
just making sure.
Okay. And just as a final comment, it did take, about 2.5 hours, I think, to get through the CIP discussion. Difficult conversation, or it took a lot of time to get through it, but that's what a republic is about. I mean, if you look very big picture, I'm so glad that we had these conversations back and forth. They didn't occur behind the scenes. This wasn't a 20-minute discussion because decisions had already been made before you all got here. The fact that it was transparent, it was in the public eye, is what we're supposed to be doing. So did take a little bit longer, caused the council time to start later, but that's exactly how it should be in my mind. So thank you very much to council for willingness to compromise, find some concessions over the last couple months or a couple weeks as we move forward to a vote tonight. So with that, it has been motioned and seconded to approve and adopt the FY23, FY28 Capital Improvements Program as amended during the FBO meeting tonight and as amended this evening at our meeting for the GFR. Did I capture that all correctly? Okay. So motion and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Are we voting on the machines or?
Yes.
Voting is open.
See Councilmember Cyrus? Oh, wait, actually, we got it. Yeah.
6 voting aye, 1 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So the capital improvements program does pass and brings us over to item 3. Following on, it's a resolution declaring an official intent under Treasury Regulation 1 TAC 150-2 to issue debt to reimburse the city for certain original expenditures paid in connection with specified projects. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, I'll wait just a moment for, actually, we can do the roll call vote here for that, and then I'll take a moment after. Okay, so Steve, Councilmember Cruz's vote is not showing yet.
Touchy.
Okay.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And so for Sergeant Arms, if you could ask if they would clear the foyer. That works too. Thank you. Okay, so now it takes us over to item 4, which is a public hearing on the proposed rezoning to R4 multiple unit residential zoning district pursuant to a zoning agreement for property located at lots 5 and 6 at the Midway Business Park. Is there a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that passes. Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications filed?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. For staff comments tonight, Karen Howard will be presenting. So the floor is yours, ma'am.
The right PowerPoint up here. Good evening, Mayor, Council. This item is a rezoning of property in the Midway Business Park. This is a small rezoning. This was requested by an owner of property in the park who wanted to develop another assisted living facility. They've already developed one assisted living facility on the property adjacent to this, and this particular zoning was adopted in 1994 with a zoning agreement that restricted the uses to professional office only. There was an amendment in 2018 to that zoning agreement that allowed the assisted living facility on the lots where it was developed, and they've found that successful, so they would ask for another amendment to that agreement. During that process, that rezoning process, we discovered that there was actually, sorry, there's something in
I have an update there.
There we go. It was discovered that there was a discrepancy in the legal description from the original 1994 rezoning. So to correct that, we're instituting a new rezoning of the property with a new zoning agreement. This would cover the Midway Business Park and restrict the uses to professional office, assisted living, and nursing homes. All of the other provisions of that original zoning agreement have been satisfied. So with that, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of RZ 22-003, the rezoning of the Midway Business Park to R4, subject to this new zoning agreement that restricts the uses to professional offices, nursing homes, and assisted living facilities. This recommended action also includes rescinding the resolutions approving that original agreement and the amendment in 2018.
Okay, thank you.
Happy
Ms.
to
Howard.
answer any questions.
Excellent. Do we have any public comment tonight on this in this hearing? Okay, seeing none, then I'll take us over to 4E, which is passing an ordinance amending the zoning map by placing property located on lots 5 and 6 of the Midway Business Park in the R4 multiple unit residential zoning district pursuant to provisions of a zoning agreement upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
The motion and seconded. And open for council questions, if any. Okay, seeing none. So moved and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Taking us over, that does pass, so that takes us over to item 5, which is a public hearing on the proposed rezoning from R4 multiple unit residential to R1 1 and 2 unit residential for lots 1 through 4 of the Midway Second Edition. Is there a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Motion,
Second.
yeah, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Madam Clerk, any written communications filed for this item?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Again, with staff comments is Ms. Howard.
Okay, this is the property just adjacent to the rezoning that you just voted on. This is the 4 single-family properties that are at the end of Lovejoy Drive. This was part of the original R4 zoning back in 1994. At that point in time, the streets weren't there. There was concerns about connection between the business park and the residential neighborhood. Everything according to that zoning agreement has already occurred. So now we're here to suggest that it be rezoned from R4 to R1, so it's consistent with the rest of the single-family neighborhood. We have received no objections from the 4 property owners of these properties. So the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this particular rezoning.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious, or actually, we'll go to public comment first. So is any public comment on this item? Okay. So that'll bring us out of the public hearing and over into 5E, which is passing the ordinance amending the zoning map by removing property generally described as lots 1 through 4 of Midway Second Edition from the R4 multiple unit residential zoning district to the R1 1 and 2 unit residential zoning district upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Open for council questions. And I would just ask, on the zoning map, if that moves over from one area to another, does it just get absorbed into that section in the map and like there's no line then between it and the cul-de-sac?
So if it becomes part of the R1 area, then yes, there's no
Hold in.
line there.
Okay, just curious. Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
A question?
Yes, Councilor Burke.
Do these lots meet the size requirement for R1 instead of R2? I was thinking R1 required larger lots.
No, they should be all pretty standard. These are cul-de-sac lots, so they're fairly large. You can see the rest of Lovejoy Drive are all R1 lots.
And it doesn't create any non-conforming uses?
No.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification
Councilor
as well.
Gamble.
Thank you, sir. Does this provide for any of those like accessory dwelling units, should somebody decide to put anything like that on their property, or is this, there won't be any new builds in these areas because of the R1 restriction?
They would be allowed to do anything with their property according to the R1 zoning district. Currently, the R1 zoning district does not allow accessory dwelling units.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, then it has been moved and seconded to pass an ordinance amending the zoning map by removing property generally described as lots 1 through 4 of the Midway Second Edition from R4 multiple unit zoning district to R1 1 2 unit residential zoning district upon its first consideration. Requires a roll call vote.
There we go. Lit up. Did it work? Says accepted. Refresh.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That takes us out of the, so it passes and takes us out of the special order of business and over into the consent calendar, where these items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. And we're very happy to discuss items that anyone wants to. So does any council member request to pull an item 6 through 9?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor
Item
Gamble.
number 8, please.
Okay. And any others? Any from the public? Okay, so it's been, I'll entertain a motion to approve 6 through 9 minus 8.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that does pass. And then item 8 is approving the following recommendations of the mayor relative to the appointment of members to boards and commissions. Shirley Murner, Health Trust Fund Board of Trustees, term ending 12/31/28. So Councilmember Ganfield, do you have a question or comment?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to point out, I think in earlier discussions or research on your website, I noticed that you had said that you would appoint Ms. Murner for a reappointment, even though she'd already served 20 years, but it was policy in some other instances to set a 20-year cap. I wanted to point out as well that there seems to be some difficulty filling this board, and I guess take this opportunity to invite members of the public to volunteer for different boards and commissions in the community, and then also just hear your justification and explanation on that policy discrepancy, I guess.
Well,
or deviation.
Exception,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, exception there.
So we had a discussion before the council meeting that, as I understood from staff, we were having a difficult time filling the Health Trust Fund Board. And so based on that recommendation, as I say in the policy, normally I would wish to not reappoint somebody after 20 years of service in order to have some turnover. I do want to keep corporate knowledge, but also want to have fresh ideas as well. This is one of those cases where that doesn't apply. So I'm certainly by policy not going to lock myself into not allowing. So this is a great instance. I'm very thankful for Shirley Murner's willingness to serve again. Has quite a bit of experience on this commission and is very valued. So, I've got a note from. Okay, so that's true. We need a motion for this. So is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Moved and seconded? Okay, so we'd had the discussion. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from council or from the public? Okay, so moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that brings us on as a 6 with 1. And for item 9, resolution calendar. So we're out of consent, move to resolution calendar, where these items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Does any council member request to pull an item from 11 through 23?
I think, Mr. Mayor, question on 13.
Yes, on 13. So we'll pull item 13. And any others? Okay, any from the public that you wish to pull from 11 to 23? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution calendar with the exception of 13.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and requires a roll call vote.
What does it need, Dave? Dustin?
We'll need,
Dave?
Oh, jeez. Sorry.
It helps if you push it back against the wall.
Okay.
The way
A
it's
voting
Very bouncy.
aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that takes us to 13, which is pulled by Councilor Field. This is a resolution approving the final plat of Wild Horse Ridge 6th Edition. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Councilmember Ganfield?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to ask actually some clarifying questions about reserved green space. I know that there was some discussion from some residents before P&Z on that, and I wanted to see if anybody could speak to that plan. I know it's not my ward, but some citizens in my ward want more park reservation and some green space. So is there a plan to add in green space anywhere in the Wild Horse additions to come? Or could there be an adjustment to this one? Didn't know who could speak to that.
So for Mr. Gaines, who do you think would be the best person? Is that Director Sheets?
Yep. At this point in reviewing a final plat, the criteria by the subdivision code are consistency with the approved preliminary plat. So at the preliminary plat stage is the perfect time to be thinking about the open space provided, outlined in our subdivision code as well.
So no real room for changes at this point on this one, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Or any from the public for comments? Okay.
Quick question.
Yes, Councilor Harding.
And if this is out of order, I'm okay to stop. Is there would it just be a referral then to talk about moving forward in the future green space, or do we address that specifically within our subdivision code? I'm not 100% familiar with the entire code.
We can review the subdivision code with the council if you'd like to talk about that provision related to park space. There's a general provision that talks about providing open space or park space. And the criteria, there's not a lot of specific about it, but what we factor in is there anything in the surrounding area that's close by, that there's already a large park, for example, or do we need to have some amenities in this subdivision? So I think, we've talked with we have a subdivision plat coming through where we've talked about they're not close to any parks, so what kind of maybe a trail amenity or some type of open space amenity that they might be able to provide. So it kind of really depends on the circumstances that we try to work with that in the preliminary plat stage to reflect something.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded for the resolution approving the final plat of Western Horse Ridge 6th Edition and requires a roll call vote.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So that passes and takes us out of the resolution calendar and into bills and claims. Is there a motion to approve bills and claims for January 17th?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any from the public? Okay, moved and seconded, and it requires a roll call vote.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that passing, then we are into council updates and announcements. Does any council member have an announcement or update for tonight? Seeing none. And over to council referrals. Any referrals to bring forward tonight? Councilmember Cruz.
Thank you. Item 129, Main Street reconstruction, as all of us know, overshot the estimate by $9 million. And with that, I think we need to dig deep into this project to see where we can improve the value to the citizen for spending that money. One of the things I've noticed, and I've talked about this before, the 6th and Main intersection represents an opportunity to incorporate a mini roundabout. The engineering study that initially was done on this recommended a mini roundabout based on life cycle cost comparison savings that by city policy, it seems we've used this on every other roundabout justification in the city. So I would like to make a referral to look at a change order on this intersection to incorporate the mini roundabout. I can go on to other savings and components of it, but I want to get a second on this.
Well, it's about the mini.
6th and Main intersection.
Yeah, I would want to have that referral be either about the mini roundabout or just general. Like if you want to talk about other improvements, I'm fine with.
Well, not other, I guess reasoning. I didn't want to go in the weeds right quite yet.
Okay, well, so I'll say it's been moved to refer to I guess a committee.
Community Development maybe?
Committee.
Yeah.
A change order for the Main Street reconstruction project for a mini roundabout and potential other items. Does that sound fair? Just so it's open.
Sure.
And then we'll discuss it. So it's been motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Open for discussion from council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Dunn.
So the way I recall this project going forward, specifically with this intersection, it didn't come with the recommendation of the mini roundabout right away. It was Councilman Miller, I believe, who brought that or asked the engineer to bring us come back with a rendering of that and what that would look like. They did that, I believe, in the next meeting after that, or maybe 2 meetings. They came back, and I specifically remember that person saying, you really could go either way. And I feel like he said that a few times. I'm not trying to stifle, I know I'm just one of 7, but we had that initial bringing it forward. Then we had the bringing it back. We saw it. I know that was a previous council, but then it's been brought back again with this council. I just wonder how many times we're going to bring the same thing back. And I say that as a person who, again, I love a roundabout. It's just, I haven't been able to put my vote that way for this project. So I'm wondering how many times we're going to go again with it.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Cruz.
As this has evolved, the first time it was presented as a roundabout, there was going to be 15 spots lost in the library community center parking lot. They redesigned it, and it went down to 5 lost parking spots. And then we had a discussion of potentially going to 3-legged roundabout. And at the same time, we had a question about the railroad tracks being removed and providing extra parking spaces. I've had conversations with the railroad that they are indeed going to abandon the tracks whether they get the grant money or not. So whether we get the grant money to remove the tracks, put in city parking that's right adjacent to the library on the north side, or we have to pay for it ourselves, there will be additional parking for anything that might be lost potentially by what configuration we have for a roundabout. With the roundabout, throughout the city, we just had a recent proposal for one at Viking and Prairie Parkway, using costs savings for users of emissions, fuel, time, crashes, that sort of thing. Interestingly enough, the construction cost between the signalized intersection and the roundabout versions, the difference is like $22,000. That was with 4 legs. If you go to 3 legs, you're using less concrete. I'd venture to say that the cost would be less than signalized. The ongoing maintenance certainly would be less. But one of the big components that causes me to continue to go after this is that the Casey's gas pumps on the corner, visiting with the manager who referred me to the real estate supervisor, and then I went up the ladder, they would die for more space in the front of their pumps so that they get ingress and egress in a safer manner. And I was told that if we went with 3 legs on the roundabout, we could shift this to the north, maybe up to 10, 12 feet. I know there'd be some right-of-way considerations, but I think that's a small price to pay to prevent an accident at a gas pump where people would back out into the street in frustrations because you get stuck in there. And I've had this happen to me a couple times now.
I'll ask, though, to be careful. Like we don't want to go too much in the details of what the project would potentially propose.
Question.
So
Sure.
Question. So if we do this referral, is it possible for staff to have, are we looking at, increased costs in redesign, what kind of costs are we looking at? Is that something we can have in the referral? You know what I mean?
This question is to staff.
So do we even know how we would approach it? Like, the thing I'm concerned about is that, and this is why I'm asking the question, is if we're talking about doing this much change to the project, shutting down 6th Street and then moving it north and then doing all this stuff, I wonder like how feasible all of that is and how much it would possibly add to the project cost-wise and how we would go about doing that. Is it possible to get that information for the referral, or is that not information that would be possible to present?
So I think to Mr. Harding's point, with not going into a lot of the history of this intersection, but obviously we'd have to get the design consultant back on board to see if they can do this. soon. In addition to that, it's a DOT contract. Obviously, the change order or whatever the council decides to do regarding this intersection has to be approved by them. And this section of street between 6th and 9th, as well as down by Searly, is scheduled for this year's construction. So I actually just met with the contractor on Friday to discuss when they'd be moving in. It's a April 1st start date according to this contract, so it's a very limited window.
Fair. All right, thanks.
Okay. Yes, continue.
The life cycle cost comparison shows user savings of 2.9 million. And that's just over 20 years. This will continue on into the future with savings. And the big point I'm getting at is city policy seems to be using those user cost savings throughout the whole community when we do a roundabout. And those savings show $146,000 a year. That would easily cover any re-engineering of this. And my knowledge of I think it's CAD drawings or what have you, it would be pretty easy to spit out a new estimate of costs. And concrete per yard, I mean, PCI gave us an estimate on the entire project in, what, a month? So.
Is that wait, I don't know if that's true. Was it a month?
I don't know the exact window, but it's fairly common between 3 and 4 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. So we have time to do it. It's January, February, March, April. That's to tear it out, to put it in. I mean, we got to do the sewer line work, and there's plenty of time to do this. If we want to give the citizens something for their 3.1 million, the cost of this was projected to be a difference of 22,000, which is a tiny drop in the bucket, even more so when it's 31 million instead of 21 million. But I'd like to see this go forward because it benefits the citizens and gives a safer intersection for Casey's. We could get it done.
So, any other comments from council? I know that in the past, referrals have come forward, I feel pretty liberally, that we've had staff do work to do studies, and sometimes they haven't gone forward, but it's a sense that we want to hear it out so that we can know all the facts. I know this has been discussed in the past. The council has expressed opinions on the value of a roundabout at 6th and Main, and so in recommending a referral, I would just ask council to keep in mind that there is staff time that's going to be involved in generating this. And if you aren't really in favor of it, you think you just want to check off a box to say you had a discussion, just realize the cost that's going to be for things that aren't going to get done in the meantime. So, not to sway one way or another, but just be aware.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Gaines, did you have a comment?
The only thing I was going to ask Mr. Mayor is if we move forward, as Mr. Schrage said, time is of the essence. Now, we'll do whichever way the council's looking, we'll work to get that done. But in order for us to make a decision moving forward, if the council wants to move forward with this, we would really appreciate what is the information you want to see to make the decision at that point. Because we will end up at a point where it's kind of a point of no return. We're either doing it or we're not. So those are the type of things that, right now I see us coming back with a lot of the same information, but if there's additional information, please let us know what that would be so we can bring that back so we can make a decision.
Yeah, the one value I could see of a referral forward of information we don't have now is if there is information from Casey's or other groups that is different than we had heard in the past. I mean, that's my understanding from staff was that Casey's wasn't interested. And so if that's different, then I would want to hear that from Casey's. I wouldn't want to hear it from a secondhand discussion. I would want a letter from Casey's.
I could give you some documents right now from Casey's.
Well, this wouldn't be the appropriate time for that.
I understand.
But,
Just saying. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Giffield?
I think in that interest of new information, I'm reflecting back on my prior conversations and discussion and vote on this. To Councilmember Dunn's point, I don't want to rehash and rehash and rehash. We got to move on with it. So I appreciate that. I guess I would ask, think through what is it that we don't want so that we can talk about how to get to a compromise. To the point of new information, when I voted on this before, I think Councilmember Schultz was the one that said, hey, what if we closed off State Street? Would that provide Sixth to State, between Main and State? I thought, hey, that's a novel idea. At that meeting last January, I do believe, I recall kind of asking Mr. Moniza, could they come up with a design of a three-legged roundabout and what that might look like? And he was in agreement that they could probably do it in pretty short order. But right, wrong, or indifferent, my remembrance of that was that we had to approve the two plans in front of us, one or the other. And it was signalized or a four-legged roundabout, which eradicated parking spaces, which was the topic du jour in my estimation at that time. So the new information to me is the design of a potential three-legged roundabout from an official stance. I understand the time is still of the essence. I guess I've heard a flip-flop of where we're starting on the 6th Street side or the Searly side, so we're starting on the 6th Street side.
It's actually
for the
both, right?
For the construction,
Both
correct?
ends of the project.
So the culvert would start as well as the 6th Street side, okay?
Correct.
One clarification I would ask for, Chase, is do we already have the signals that we ordered in advance, and is that a cost loss? Could we repurpose?
Previous information, when we were working on a different signalized project, we were hearing between 6 and 12 months, depending on the size of signal that you'd be ordering and depending on what vendor you chose. So my guess is the contractor, once the contract was signed, already approved, already submitted their order for that material. I heard from them on Friday there was a lot of materials that they took their risk on and ordered prior to the signing of the contract just because of price inflation.
So do we know, is it hearsay, or you're just guessing that they ordered the signals, or they did order them?
I would have to confirm that with them.
So we don't know.
Mr. Mayor.
And if they did order them, but they're not in production, there may be an opportunity to cancel the order. But again, the closer we get to some of that, we really need, I mean, time is really of the essence now.
Yeah. The other piece of new information that might change the calculus a bit is with the parking that's available. When we first were looking at that intersection, I know that was a big concern for the taking spaces from the library. That was before even the discussion came up about the railway on 5th Street and having that opened up for potential new parking. So that is something that might change as far as a change order goes. I certainly appreciate going through and getting the contract complete overall. I didn't want to delay that because there was so much else in that project that needed to be nailed down. So for a change order, certainly it's a valid thing to do. It's legal for us to issue a change order, but just realize what those one, opportunity costs are going to be, and then actual costs as well by going that route. So yes, Councilor Cruz.
I was just going to say, to counter that, two things. What I mentioned earlier is what they're calling the user cost savings, $146,000 a year. And then something I didn't mention was this matrix called level of service, comparing north, south, east, and westbound traffic and time to go through the intersection, intersection, the way I understand it. The rating for a compact roundabout is all A's. If we put a traffic signal in there, we got some B's and C's for what I would consider inferior level of service. So we're picking up safety issues there, or time issues and so on. So.
Okay, and that's information that we would want as part of the change order discussion, really. Just
yeah, because this came from,
okay.
Sorry, this came from 2021, which some of the counselors here would not have seen.
Okay. All right, Councilmember DeBoer, you had a question?
Well, there's been a lot of costs, or a lot of comments regarding the cost and the cost increase or inflation on the Main Street project. And anytime you use the word change order, it generally, to me, means cost increase. And I thought we were trying to look at ways to cut or reduce the price of this whole project. So I'm concerned that as we do this, are you adding to the price instead of deducting from the price?
You're lowering it.
Okay. All right. So do we have enough information to say whether or not we want to actually move forward that referral? I feel like we do. Okay. So it's been motioned to refer a change order to the Community Development Committee in the very near future. For Mr. Gaines's point, to consider a mini roundabout at 6th Street, and are we going to look at other cost? I guess the motion was for other cost savings too, so we have to include that. So motion or moved and seconded, and all in favor of this referral, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so I heard sounds like an aye vote. My hearing's not the best.
Ayes?
Yeah, so raise your hand for aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. And nays? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that does pass to send to a referral.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask,
Please.
since time is of the essence, I'm going to have to ask if we can get to a special council meeting, because at some point, we're going to hit that point of no return, so.
Okay, and what would you say would be a reasonable deadline for that, or when you would need to have it?
We'll have to talk to the consultant, but
Okay.
I'd like to correspond with you, but because just the next council meeting alone is 3 weeks,
Mhm.
so.
Okay, so that will impact that. And if we can't get the special meeting, is there a point where things happen and we can't go back? That we have to have the special meeting?
Well, there's probably never that point until they actually, put up the signals and we have to pay for it. It's all going to cost, but it's what's the cost? The sooner we change, we make the change, the less the cost.
Okay. All right, so we'll discuss that, and we'll get out to council for a special meeting to discuss this. All right, so with that, any other referrals tonight?
Oh, yeah. I had one quick, easy. I would like to refer for the future. Take your time a little bit, so we don't have to, stack on a review of our green space policies within the subdivision, just to look at it and see how we're doing that and see if we want to make any changes. That's it.
Okay, and
To community development.
to CD. Okay, so it's been moved to refer to
Second.
community development. Yep. Okay. All right, motion moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All right, and no short time fuse on this one. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that does pass. And any other referrals? Okay, seeing none. With that, that takes us over to adjournment. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.